ton of time, but I do want to share a couple tips this month. One is, and I'm going to drop a link in the chat. So we're all familiar with Google My Business and Google Maps, right? Yeah, okay. So what you may or may not have heard is that Apple recently, like in the last few months or so, late last year, came out with their own version. It's called Apple Business Connect. If you have not already registered for this for your business location, I highly recommend that you get on this. So I'm dropping the link in the chat for you. It's you just click it, you create your account, and then you're going to fill out your profile very similar to how you did for your Google My Business account. And I'm not 110% sure how Apple is going to use this, but we know there's always Apple versus Google wars going on. So definitely want to make sure that if you're relying on map listings for your SEO, that you are getting ahead of this. If you have multiple locations, you can use one account and add all your locations to that. If you're just one location, you don't really have to worry about that. But we're doing this for each of our clients, setting up an account and then building out their profile for them. So that's my quick marketing tip of the day as far as that goes. And then the conversation I wanted to have today is around mindset and around your marketing. So I'm rereading the book, Think and Grow Rich. Are you guys familiar with this book? Yeah.
Napoleon
So
Hill?
yeah, Napoleon Hill.
I don't know that one, no.
Yeah, so it's a really it's a very old book, but it's very popular. It's pretty much all about building your business plan, but also having like the faith and the mindset, and kind of it works in manifestation without saying manifestation into it. So it's just a really interesting look at just a different way of approaching things. And one of the things that I really like that he talks about is starting with whatever your goal is. So having a clear vision and then a belief in that vision. So when we're looking at building our business and we're creating our marketing plans, ultimately your vision and your goals should be leading that plan, right? So it's kind of like, here's your goal and your vision, and then we're going to take steps by steps here to build into ultimately reaching that goal and that vision. So one of the things in there that he talks about is writing this down and being really clear about it, like super clear. Like, how much do you want to make? When do you want to make it by? And what are you going to give in exchange for making that money? So not just like, it's a little different than The Secret, which if you're familiar with that would basically say, oh, I want to make $1,000 this month and I'm just going to attract that to myself, right? Where but this is more of like putting some action behind it. So understanding like, this is what I want and this is what I'm going to do to get it. So I think that's really important, because I think when we get busy in our businesses, we forget to write down our goals sometimes. And those goals ultimately affect the decisions that you make as a business owner day to day, week to week. But also having those reminders will drive your marketing strategy. So how is my marketing strategy supporting this ultimate goal that I have? Right. So I think it's just really important, probably once a quarter, to come back to that. And I mean, that's how I do it. I'll create like my big goal for the year, and then I break them into quarters. And then, okay, this is what I want to achieve this quarter that's going to help me get to the bigger goal for the year. And then here's my plan of execution and what I'm going to try in my marketing, what's working, what's not working, that kind of stuff. So just being really clear in that. And then, but the other half of that is believing in your vision. So not just saying this is what I want, but having the faith that if you take the action and all those other things that come along with it, that you'll reach it. And then the other thing that he talks about is just when you create this plan to, number one, be really consistent with focusing on your vision. So it's not like a set it and forget it thing. It's coming back to it probably daily, however you want to work it into your routine. Because again, that's going to help you set the intention for how you're approaching your workday with your marketing, whatever else comes next. So really just constantly having that vision and that belief and reminding yourself of that. And that's what will drive other things. And then, so having that plan, working it consistently. And I think that's the other really important part is being consistent. So I think, as business owners, we get super busy or we get impatient and we kind of maybe might slack off on some of the things that we know we need to be doing. But you don't need to do everything. Just again, being really specific. How is this action going to help me reach my goal? Okay, great. Let me figure out a plan for being consistent with that. So the book has a lot of like really good, like a lot of really, really good gems that I really like. But I think that this idea of, I'm gonna see if I can pull up a couple quotes right here real quick. But I think this idea of just making sure that you have a plan and that you're staying aware of your plan consistently is super, super important to driving your marketing. Um, any questions or kind of feedback on that so far?
The
No.
difficulty with I think for every small business, me particularly, sometimes is that you think you know what you want to do in order to implement, in order to be able to reach that goal, right?
Yeah.
But not all, but especially today has changed a lot, right? So that linear sales process has gone from, if I make 1,000 calls, 100 will answer. If I make 100 answers, 50 will be interested and another 50, 10 will buy, right? Like that works at a very large scale, but on the small business side, it no longer is that as easy. So discerning quickly what efforts are really getting you towards your goal, even though they may not be having immediate results, has become that. You kind of hit on me when you said patience. Having that patience is hard, because it doesn't always feel like it's working.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a really, really good point, and I think every business owner that I know struggles with that to a degree because one of the challenges in today's market is that people are super, super distracted. There are so much noise, so many messages, all angles, all times of the day, everywhere you look. And how do you break through that? Well, one, you have to know who you are and what it is that you offer. So, what are you doing that's different than anybody else? Because when you understand that, you understand how to kind of break through that noise. And this is something that's actually a topic. I took a webinar a couple weeks ago, and this is a really, actually, really, really timely topic because Google's going to be changing their algorithm again. They're saying like last quarter of this year, and one of the things that they're going to be emphasizing is artificial intelligence. And so we're kind of still trying to figure out what they're going to do with that. But on this webinar that I was on, they were talking about you have to be really clear about what it is that you do different. So it's not enough to just say, I'm whatever, a cosmetic surgeon or whatever, it's not enough to just say I'm a dentist. What is it that you do that's different from everybody else? And then the second part of that is what is it that your audience really wants? Like, what problems are you solving for them? And when you can bring those things together, eventually, when you're consistent, you're going to hit on a point that's going to make them go, oh, and they might go, oh, because either you said something in a way that it finally clicks with them, right? We talk about that law of seven in marketing, but I think it's much more than that these days because of how distracted we are. So I think again, like just saying something in a way that maybe you've said it before, but you're changing your words a little bit different, that someone's like, oh, like that makes sense and I need that. Or you're consistent enough that maybe they don't need what you're doing right now, but when they finally do have the need, you're top of mind and you're continuing to stay in front of them. And they might say, oh, you know what? I actually just had a conversation with somebody who's looking for XYZ. This just jogged my memory. Let me hop on a call with them. Right. So that's why the patience is super, super important because you just don't know when somebody is going to have a specific need. But when you're consistent and really specific in your message and what it is that you bring to the table, and what it is that you're doing for your audience, like make it really relevant to them, that's where like you'll start to see those results happen a little bit quicker. Because if people don't understand and you're not really clear with them on what it is that you do or the offer that you're offering, and you're not out doing that consistently, they're not going to take the time to go figure out what it is that you do and how they can work with you, right? So but yeah, I find that just kind of keeping those things in mind is helpful. And then another thing that I would say about patience is similar along those lines, that people are always watching. So when we do a lot of social media at Miss Inc, and we'll have clients that come in or new prospects, and they get really focused on the number of followers or number of likes or number of comments. And yes, those are important markers that we're always trying to up engagement and get you in front of people and all those things. But what I also remind them is there's a lot of times that they're going to see something that you post and they're not going to click that like button or they're not going to comment, but they're going to remember it. And they're going to come to you like a few months later. Oh, I saw that post you did on da 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 da. And you're going to be like, what? Like you didn't even like that. You didn't even comment on that or whatever. It happens all the time. And the other thing about that too is people can share stuff, and because of the privacy features now, it's called dark social. We have no idea what people are sharing and to who they're sharing it to. So those are metrics that we can't see, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. So I think those are sort of when it seems like whatever you're doing is not working, just be patient with it a little bit more, but also be clear on what it is that you mean by working. What is the result that you want? Is it consult calls? Okay, so what's your marker for consult calls? How many do you want to get a month, a week, or whatever? And then kind of like working from there. And when you get them, okay, you'll start to see like, okay, how did you hear about us? So you'll do a certain speaking engagement and you'll get a bunch of consult books from that. And then that'll tell you, okay, my speaking engagements build that quickly versus this. Maybe I haven't gotten a lot of consult calls from over here. So maybe I still want to talk about it and keep that consistency, but maybe I don't want to put as much effort into that. I want to book more speaking engagements. Does that make sense? Yeah.
No, I totally agree with everything you said, and including the, everybody gets so focused on the numbers a little too much, but it's more about the quality, like, who's engaging with your newsletter, your social media, or whatever the case may be, because, you look at some of these accounts and you don't know if they've bought their followers or if they're, people are engaged. And so it doesn't really matter, the quantity, as long as you have the quality and the right audience.
Right. And that takes time to build. And then sometimes something will be working and things will change in the world and you have to sort of pivot that strategy. So it's a lot of being creative, but creating a plan and really working that plan and staying consistent with it and giving it a chance to work. Like if people are going to talk about mailers, or magazine ads or whatever, mailers are great. But if you send them out once or twice, like what kind of consistency is there? If you can send them out over a year, at different intervals, then maybe people are going to start to have that recognition, right? So as long as the message that you're putting on that mailer is super relevant to that person that's seeing it. So, but yeah, those are things that sometimes not everything is a quick fix. And I think we all have to do, myself included, have to do self-checks on that, because we want instant everything today. We want easy answers and we want everything done fast. And the more technology advances, the easier things come. And I was thinking about this morning, I have more time than ever because this is making this easier for me. And I don't have to spend as much time doing X, Y, Z. But then what am I doing? I'm filling that time with other things. So it's not like we magically have more time, right? So that's not really the way things are going. So
well, it's you reminded me. So this, I think I mentioned a little earlier before we were recording, but that I went to South Beach for the first time in a very long time. And I was there at golden hour, right? Golden hour, if you're not into photography, is an hour before sunset. It's the most flattering light you can have. And I got to witness something I'd never seen before, which was all the influencers come out to the beach to take pictures at
Oh,
Golden
wow.
Hour. Yeah, and so there were like literally 5 within my like people watching, area there, and one of them was a young lady in a bathing suit with nice cover up and 2 assistants taking the pictures. It's not like if it was even like a person just enjoying themselves, and they
Right.
took, I don't know, 1,000 pictures um to get what probably will be 2 posts total.
Right.
And I thinking of that in the sense of how intentional these groups of people were being. Time of day they all came out, where they did it, thought processes as to where the light would be, kind of all of this to try to create this one piece of content. And I guess that it reminded me of, as you were talking about, the need for intentionality in the building of what you're trying to do, is in the sense of even those things that who are getting all those likes and followers, it's not because they're so great, mostly more that they are so intentional in what they're doing.
Intentional and consistent. So they know but they know this is my brand. This is how I'm going to show that brand. This is who my audience is. And then I'm going to be super intentional about the content that I post and plan that in advance. It doesn't happen by magic. And I think like that's the hardest part about, I think, marketing today.
Are you sure it's not magic? It sure
I'm
feels like
sure.
magic.
I wish it was. I really wish it was. And I wish I knew the spell or the formula, because I would be a billionaire on a private island somewhere. As much as I love you guys, I wouldn't be doing these videos, these meetings. So, but yeah, I think that's the thing, is that you have to constantly be willing to stay agile. And, we talk a lot with the athletes that I work with, we talk a lot about pivoting and making game time adjustments. And that's how it works, like in life and in business and everywhere else. You're constantly making a game time adjustment, and we're sort of just doing our best. But I think, if there's one thing that to take away today, it would be like revisit your vision and your goals, and then take a look at, okay, is my marketing supporting this in a way that's super clear for my audience to understand? So what actions do I want my audience to take? Am I being super clear with them about what that is and why they should take it now? So I think those are good. Those are always good questions to come back to and revisit and look at. We do that in our company. We do that once a month for our clients. We hold a strategy call at the beginning of the month, my entire team, and we go over goals from the previous month and then goals for the current month. And then in between those, we're meeting 3 times a week to talk about not just things that we have going on for the clients, but different developments that are happening, maybe other creative ideas and things that we can be bringing to the table. So it's, when people they ask about social media and packages and all that kind of stuff, sometimes people are shocked, but I'm like, the time that goes into this is intensive. So to your point. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know if anybody else I'll open up. We have a few more minutes. If anybody has like just general, not even related to this topic necessarily, but questions that I might be able to answer, I'm happy to do that.
I'll ask, how much Chat GPT are you using?
How much Chat GPT? Actually, I use
Or Brad. We don't have to pick one.
Yeah, I haven't tried Brad yet. I've heard a lot of really bad things about that. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna go there yet. But I have another AI program. There's a lot of actually AI writing programs. So I've been using one for probably 9 months now, called Write Sonic. And that one actually has like buttons that if you want to do something, it's different than Chat GPT, where it's like a chat form that you're putting in what you wanted to do. It'll be like, click here to create a Facebook ad, and you click there and you put in the information, and it'll spit out a bunch of options for you. And then of course you have to go in and edit that and make it right for you. But yeah, where Chat GPT I play with just sometimes out of fun, just to see what it's going to do. But I will use it to get ideas. I haven't used it to write an entire blog article or social media post or landing page or anything like that, because sometimes like the ideas that it came up with are really good, and then I Google it and it's on somebody else's page, and so I don't want to have any conflict. but I also sometimes I'll take it and if just to kind of like get the juices flowing, and then I rewrite and work off of what is there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I use it similarly, especially when I'm stuck writing a letter or something.
Yeah.
I write
I have that too.
that thing that I've been struggling with all those
Yeah.
keywords I really want in there, but it's just not working together. Give it to it, it spits back exactly what I want.
Yeah, and then you can sort of format it a little bit to sound a little bit more like yourself anyway.
Right. It works for me. It works good in small, like
Yeah, it was
if
smaller
three
thing.
sentences you're really struggling with, it can help you rewrite 3 sentences very easily. A whole blog post, and I've had to do that. I had it once create an invitation in the tone of Celia Cruz.
No. How did it do? Did it do good in that?
That's funny.
It did pretty good. I was impressed at how well it did. Let me put it that way. You know, including the azúcar and everything. Yes. It was. I was
That's
impressed
funny.
at how much it. You know, it was basically an invitation where they threw in Celia Cruzisms all over it, but it was fun to do and kind of share with folks.
That's cute. That's fun. Huh. I haven't thought to ask it to do in the tone of another person before. No, that sounds fun.
Well, I was talking with somebody about how, you know, one of the difficult parts, and Misty, you know that better than most, of today's business world is that average business owner has to be a marketer too, right? And I was talking with someone recently about how understanding how to create prompts for these AIs to be able to spit out the information with the shortest amount of information is actually going to become a new skill that some folks will excel at, others will have to learn.
Yeah.
Because some things are just, you know, we're not going to be able to keep up. It's not so much that we're not going to be able to keep up. I don't think it's so much we're not going to be able to keep up with our individuality, right? But we're just not going to be able to keep up with the speed at which other people are moving, which may make up for maybe not being so, you know, individual.
I think I was
you're
like
never gonna replace
targeted a couple of weeks ago by someone using AI. It was such a strange situation, as I get all the time, you know, people saying they want to publish an article, you know, in my newsletter. And so sometimes, you know, so it wasn't unusual that I got contacted, but what was unusual was like the name. It was like Miss Alice something. But the email itself seemed fine. She's like, oh, you know, I'm not asking, you know, to be paid, but I would love to submit some articles to, you know, to get experience and this and that and the other. And so that part of it, and I usually don't take those articles, but I thought, well, let me see, you know, what they think. And they put some links to some articles that seemed fine. So I said, okay, well, let's jump on a call to talk about it. And then she didn't answer me for like 3 days. And then the answer was so weird, was like, oh, you know, I'm working from home and then I got sick. And then like, it was this long explanation. And then it was like, I prefer to communicate over email. And I was like, okay, first of all, this is probably like a dude. And it was like, and I was like, I think this is going to be cropping up more and more where people now think, oh, I'm a writer, I'm a blog, you know, I can write blogs, I can do this, because they're just putting it into Chat GPT or whatever.
Right.
And then churning out stuff and then thinking, oh, let me get experience or try to sell these things to people. It was just a very weird situation. And I thought, oh my God, this brings up a whole other level when it comes to this, that it could just be, you know, anybody now will call themselves a writer or, you know, start making blogs or doing whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's why the personalization part's going to be really important, because you're going to be able to tell if somebody wrote a personal story in their anecdote or something like that, it's going to come off and sound very different than a robot spit article with just a bunch of information that might be okay, but it's generic, it's repetitive, because a lot of these AI things that I've used to help write articles, a lot of the information that they write, that it says in there, is repetitive. And it might be repetitive to another article that I had it kind of start out for me, or it might be repetitive within the same article. And if you're not paying attention, like you don't even like catch, like, this is the same thing it just said in this paragraph, but said in a little bit of a different way. So I think
Right.
if we're going to get smarter at figuring that stuff out, but I also think consumers are. So this is why personalization is so important and why personal stories are so important, because that's what people are ultimately going to connect with. That's what's going to make that emotional connection that's going to help somebody remember you and want to do business with you and feel like they know you, rather than just content for purposes of having content.
Right.
And the value of video, which is even harder to AI off, to create an AI off. It's not impossible, but it's
yeah. But
it's
I think it'll be interesting. I think the bots are going to continue to get smarter. But at the end of the day, the bot is never going to live the life that I lived. It's never going to have had the conversations that I had, right? It's never going to have the same beliefs and views that I have because it hasn't lived my life. So like that level will never be replaced by a bot. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Interesting.
So anyhow, lots to talk about. Any other questions or anything before we wrap up for this month? No. Well, Samantha, congratulations on your award, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
You want to
I'm
tell
pretty
us what that
proud of
was?
it.
That was super cool.
It was the Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce Businesswomen of the Year Awards, and my category was entrepreneur.
And you
So
won.
very
it's
cool.
exciting, and I won. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's nice to, when you like work so hard to like, oh, look, it was acknowledged. I'm so happy.
Yeah, no, that does feel
So,
really good. That does feel
yeah, and it was like so nice to be in that room with so many like interesting women and people, and and hear all the bios and what people are up to. But it's so funny, like being in marketing, I made like a terrible, I thought you'd think you'd find it funny, like a terrible marketing mistake. So when you submit, you get nominated for the award, and then they ask you to like fill out all this stuff. There's different questions, and I filled it out. And then after that, they asked for a 250-word bio.
Mhm.
And then I thought, well, they're just going to have read all this stuff. So I'm going to make this like really personal, right? But
Okay.
it didn't click till the day of that was what they were going to read at the thing.
Oh.
So I didn't include anything about my business really. So when they had the judges had voted on it, they were like, wow, your bio was so impressive and this and this and this. But then when they went to read it, compared to the other two ladies who were also finalists, I thought, oh my gosh, I sound like a fluff ball. Like they had all these accomplishments, and I was like, oh, she plays tennis and has 2 children, and like, and then my friends were
But
like,
it worked. It worked,
said that?
right?
They didn't say anything about, no, but this was after the fact, like they already knew I won. This was just the announcement.
Oh.
So my friends were like, they didn't say anything about 305 High. And they were like, that was terrible. I go, that was me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I thought, oh my gosh, marketing 101, always plug your business, but
Yeah,
I was
do
like,
that too.
I just thought that one was one thing and one was another. And I thought, well, I'm not going to repeat.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it
That's
sounds like they
really
probably
funny.
should have been a little more clear on what they were asking for too.
You're right. And said like, right, we're not going to bring up this was just for the,
Exactly.
selection process. And oh my gosh, this is a call from a doctor I've been waiting for.
Go.
Thank you guys
Goodbye.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining.
Thank
Very cool.
All right. And with that, I think we'll wrap up unless anybody else has any last minute questions, comments, or anything like that.
Nope.
I think
No,
we're good.
we're
I
good.
wrote
to
my
go.
notes. I've been writing notes when you've been talking for your entire life.
Oh, I'd like to read.
I might actually put that as my that might be my Instagram post today. Attended a marketing call. This is the best quote I heard from the mom who was on the road. I've
Yeah.
been writing notes as you speak my entire life.
For
There you
your
go.
entire life. Yep.
Entire life. Whether she liked what was in those notes or not.
Ah, yes.
I'm writing.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Maggie.
Nice to
And
meet
thank you again, Misty. I've already sent out to my team to attack Apple Connect, Business Connect. Even though I tried to go on my own, I couldn't wouldn't let me log in. It keeps thinking I'm on a mobile. But
Oh, huh.
but yeah.
Yeah, give that
Yeah,
a
they're gonna have
shot.
some glitches. That's-
Give that a shot and see. That's just one more tool for your arsenal. Keep it up with your LinkedIn newsletters. They look awesome. I hope you're getting some nice traction with that.
I'm a big believer in what you were saying before. I get very few likes. I get very few comments or engagement. I get a ton of, oh my God, I was at the event. I was at an event. Oh my God, I just saw your video about Bob. I just saw that picture of you doing that.
Right.
And so I do know that it works. I struggle with metric building, right? Because it's my widgets aren't as simple as like, my customers are, I'm an inbound agency, not an outbound agency. So like I could have 50 phone calls in a day, but if they don't need to talk to me about insurance, what's the point of the
Right.
call? So
Right.
so I'm trying to capture their attention so that I'm A, top of mind, or B, their go-to resource for that thing when it becomes a question for them, right?
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to have a separate conversation about that, you let me know.
I will. It's great seeing both of you.
Good to
Nice
see you
to see you
too.
as
I hope you
well.
both have a wonderful day, and
All right.
we'll see you next month.
Thanks,
All
Ellie.
right.
Mom, I hope I see you before.
Thank you, Misty.